So, what do you think about when you hear the word integrity? What does integrity mean to you? A lot of times you'll hear people say, integrity is doing the right thing when no one is watching. And sure, that's a good basic definition of integrity. Honestly, though, I don't think it's very complete. It's lacking, to me, that definition. Any football fans would know who Tony Dungy is. Tony Dungy defines integrity as the choice between what's convenient and what's right. I read that preparing for this episode, and that was probably the one definition that resonated with me the most. And here's why. In life, we will have many opportunities to take shortcuts, whether it's in our work, in our relationships, in our marriages, in choices that we make. We all have the opportunity to take shortcuts. We all have the opportunity to do what's convenient. And the fact is, there might be times when nobody will ever find out if you take a shortcut. But I want you guys to think about something. I want you to imagine your discipline as a bank account. And you can either make a deposit into that account or you can make a withdrawal. Think about it like this. Every time that you take a shortcut in life, every time that you don't act in integrity, every time that you take an opportunity to shortcut something or do it the easy way, imagine you're making a withdrawal from your discipline bank. Imagine that you are chipping away at this fortress that you call integrity or your discipline. Imagine that you are taking a little piece of that. And in the moment, you might not think it's a big deal. But 6, 7 years down the road, maybe not even that long, maybe 3 or 4 years down the road, you'll see the fruits of that. And you'll realize, okay, I really should have taken that opportunity to actually take my time on this. And I shouldn't have taken the easy road. I shouldn't have taken the quick road. Doing what's right is often not easy. Living in integrity is often not easy. But here's the truth. It's not supposed to be easy. Because if it was easy, as you know, everybody would do it. But walking in integrity, having real, honest integrity takes time. And just like building a bank account, it takes time. It takes commitment. It takes discipline. It takes patience. It takes consistency. And integrity right now is not something that's very popular in our culture. In fact, in a lot of ways, it's something that's probably demonized in many, many contexts. And it's rare, very rare, to find somebody who walks in integrity. Right now, I think that it's one of the most unfortunate realities in the church where we see the highest rate of divorce because men are not being faithful to their wives or wives are not being faithful to their husbands. The part that really bothers me about that is that, again, you might not think that it's really that big of a deal. It is. It is a big deal. And although you might not see it in the moment, when you look back, you're going to realize exactly why it was so important for you not to take the easy road. This quote by Tony Dungy it perfectly encapsulates all of that. And I think you can break down integrity into 3 different categories. And those categories are character, example, and legacy. Let's start with character. How would we define character? Okay, so what are your beliefs? What are your standards? What are your principles? What are your non-negotiables? What standards do you live by? How do you operate every day? What are things that you will not do in your life? Think about those things. Think about the reasons why you've chosen not to do those things. Think about poor choices that you've made in the past and the outcomes of some of those choices. Think about the lessons you've had to learn that have led you to live by certain standards. Maybe you don't have any standards. Think about the reason why, and think about the outcome of your life, what it looks like right now because you don't have standards. Think about how that affects the people in your life, the people in your circle, the people that live with you each and every day, the people that you work with, the people that you live with, the people that you maybe go to church with, the people that you do life with. How is that impacting them? What choices are you making in your life? And what principles are you living by? This is not a very common thing to see in our culture right now. And frankly, it's pretty easy to see who is living by standards and who's not, because you can see based on the practices that they have every day. You can look at this person and say, yeah, that person's disciplined. That person has integrity. I have a very small group of friends in my life because I've had a larger group of friends and I've whittled it down based on people that I know I can trust, based on people that I know are going to show up when I need them to. I've been raised to operate a certain way based on how I saw my parents operate, based on how I've seen other people operate. And so I've chosen to live by a certain code of ethics, and I live by certain standards in my life so that every single day I can be consistent and I can work towards a goal and I can see that goal become reality. Building this podcast requires a lot of consistency. It's going to require a lot of patience. And so I have to do certain things. I have to prepare. I have to make sure that I get enough sleep. I have to make sure that I'm eating well so that I'm healthy and that I'm prepared for every single episode. I have to make sure that I'm on time. I have to make sure that I am doing my research, that I'm preparing these notes. So that requires that I sacrifice certain things in my own life that I want to do so that I can be ready to deliver this content to you guys. I have to live by a certain standard when I go to work. Do you live by a certain standard in your job? What are your non-negotiables in your job? How do you operate? Do you show up on time? Are you consistent? Are you reliable? Are you somebody that does their job and does it with excellence? Or are you somebody that just does the bare minimum? Think about that. I'm sure there are people around you that you could probably think of that you work with that do the bare minimum. And whether they realize it or not, it shows. What about your marriage? If you're married, how are you loving your spouse? How are you showing up for them every single day? Are you doing the little things? Doing the dishes? Taking the garbage out? Are you holding to a certain standard? Are you holding to your word? Can you be honest with yourself and say you're holding to your word? Or are you just sort of like existing? Are you just sort of just getting by? We have one of the highest divorce rates, if not the highest divorce rate in history in America right now. As I was preparing for marriage, all I heard over and over and over again is over 50% of all marriages end in divorce. I'll tell you one of the reasons for that. Lack of integrity. Lack of integrity, lack of honesty, lack of faithfulness. Integrity is a really important thing, guys. And unfortunately, right now, it's not a priority for a lot of people. Ask yourself, are you just somebody that lives by integrity when there's somebody there to applaud you? When there's somebody to give you credit? Or are you grinding in the dark all by yourself when you know nobody's watching? Because you want to build yourself into a person that will be there for the other people when they need you. And they can count on you and they say, Sean always shows up when we need him. He always does his best. He always works hard. He always works for the good of the team. He always encourages people. We can always count on him whenever we need him. Or think about you. We can always call on so-and-so, and they're going to be there no matter what. Do you live by integrity when nobody's watching, or just when people have the cameras on? To applaud you, to congratulate you. What about when nobody's holding you accountable? Can you hold yourself accountable? Can you take honest account of your life right now and say, yes, I'm living by integrity? What about your example? Let's break that down. What kind of example are you setting for the people around you? I'm a father. I have a responsibility to set an example for my son. And of course, I'm not perfect, but I'm going to try really hard every single day to make sure that I set a godly example, not just a good example, but a godly example for my son. Do I fail epically every day? Absolutely. Absolutely. But I try my hardest because I want my son to grow up with the confidence that he needs to do that in his own life because he saw me do it and it's just natural for him. He can look at me and say, yeah, daddy is a man of integrity. When he says he's going to do something, he does it. No matter if he's got energy or if he's tired, if it's a good day or a bad day, it doesn't matter. Daddy shows up every day and he loves me. He spends time with me. He pours into me. He invests in me. And he loves mommy. Every day he gets up and he serves her with love in his heart. Can you say that about your marriage? My parents are going to celebrate 39 years of marriage this year. And my parents aren't perfect, but they have been there for each other. And I can look at their marriage and say, yeah, that's a marriage that operates in integrity. They have a track record of showing up for each other and forgiving each other for their imperfections. But they don't use that as an excuse. They still love each other through all of that junk. What kind of example are you setting at work? Ask yourself that. Do you do what's required of you and nothing more? Or do you go above and beyond? Do you look for opportunities to exceed expectations? Do you look for opportunities to stand out? Not to get applauded, but just because you want to serve people to the best of your ability. Even if nobody ever congratulates you. Even if nobody ever claps for you. Do you still do it? Because it's the right thing to do and it's not necessarily always convenient? Or do you just hide in the corner and do what's required of you? People can tell. People can tell. You're going to stand out like a sore thumb, as they say, if you do more than what's required of you. If you go above and beyond, if you exceed expectations, if you look for opportunities to take extra good care of your customers or even your coworkers. Are you a good listener? Are you a good helper? Do you look for opportunities to assist even when you're not expected to? Do you look for opportunities to make somebody's day so that those people will remember you the next time they come in? I work in banking. I only see people for maybe a few minutes at a time. It's very brief interactions. So I have a very small window of time in which I need to wow a person. And I need to make sure that I'm taking care of everything they need in that moment to the best of my ability. How about your family? What kind of example are you setting for your family? Ask yourself that. Ask yourself, when you get home, what example are you setting for your children? Are you coming home and like, oh, it was such a hard day. Oh my God, I'm so tired. Just want to lay down. Let's be honest. I've had those days. I still have those days. But that's not an excuse to not show up. It's not an excuse to not be invested, be in the game. And those little, again, remember at the beginning I talked about a bank making deposits or withdrawals. Acting like that, you're making withdrawals. Because my son hasn't seen me all day. He's waiting to see me. And if I show up and I'm just negative, I ignore him completely, I don't even acknowledge that he's there, what kind of example do you think that sets for him? Daddy doesn't care. Daddy's too busy for me. Daddy's too tired to spend time with me. And also, let's ask this question too. The way that you describe yourself, are you just talking a big game? Or does your talk match your walk? Does it match how you describe yourself? Could I look at your life right now and say, yeah, he means what he says. He doesn't just say he's this way, he lives that way. He practices what he preaches every single day. What are your standards? How do you take care of yourself? How do you take care of your body? How do you keep yourself in good shape for this game called life? What do you do every day? In the beginning, I talked about non-negotiables. What are your non-negotiables? If I asked your family right now, does he do what he says he does? Does she do what she says she's doing? Can I look at their life and say, yeah, that's how they live? Or are you just giving lip service? Proverbs 20 verse 7 says, the righteous man walks in his integrity. His children are blessed after him. So character, example, and then the last one, legacy. We only have so much time on this planet. We're all going to die. Our time will end. How do we want to be remembered? What memories do you want your family to have of you after you're gone? What kind of conversations do you want them to have of you as they remember your life? Do you want them to say, he was there when we needed him. He was always a part of our life. He made us a priority. He made it a point to be there in the good times and the bad times, in the easy days and the hard days. Do we think about that? Do you think about that? You should. Because here's the truth, man. Everybody is going to die. I know that's a harsh thing to think about. And here's the reason why. Every one of us, we have to think about how much time we have. And if we really let that sit on us for a few minutes, for a little while, it'll change how we live. It'll change how we live every day, how we show up for every day, how we show up in our work, how we show up in our relationships, how we show up in our marriage, how we show up in everything that we do, and the impact that we leave on every situation that we're in. And unfortunately, right now, we're not seeing a lot of that. In our culture, people are living for the moment. They're not living for the legacy. They're just sort of existing. They want to experience these short windows of high. They want to experience pleasure and euphoria, and that's great. And moments like that will come along in life. But there's going to be a lot more moments in life where it's just mundane, tedious grinding, day in and day out, day in and day out. And those are the times that you can separate yourself from everyone around you. Because when those people are taking the easy road, you're going to be there grinding. How many Rocky movies have we seen where he's off in the woods exercising? He's just doing his thing. He's doing his exercises. He's doing his non-negotiables every day. And he's grinding over and over and over again. And you probably think to yourself, man, he's got to be tired. But then you see the fruits of that down the road when he becomes this untouchable human being because he made deposits day in and day out, and he showed up for himself so he could show up for everybody else, and he could prove that he was who he says he was. If you show up, if you live by integrity, if you are consistent in the little things, people will be able to tell. They'll be able to look at your life and say, holy smokes, that guy's real. That girl's real. They really mean it. And you can look at their life, you can see a track record of consistent practice. But then you can also look at that person and say, anytime I need that person to help me with something, they're going to be there for me. I can count on them. I can call them at 3 o'clock in the morning and they're going to drop everything and be there for me if I need them to. So I'll ask this question again. What does integrity mean to you? What standards do you live by? How do you show up for yourself every day? And how do you make deposits into your discipline account when it's convenient and when it's inconvenient? Because remember, just like Tony Dungy said, integrity is the difference between what's convenient and what's right. And oftentimes, what's right is what's very inconvenient, because it's not going to get you applause. It's not going to get you recognition, at least not in the moment. Eventually it will. But you won't get that dopamine rush of somebody saying, "Good job, bro. You did it, man." But I'll tell you who does see it. God sees it. He's keeping track. He's got receipts, as people like to say today. He's got the receipts. The good ones and the bad ones. And all of us are going to see that in the end. We're all going to see those receipts. So how are we living in light of that now? What are we doing every day to prove that we are people of integrity? And not just going with the flow of this weak and underwhelming culture where people are just, they got to take mental health days because, life is just really beating me down. Yeah, it's beating us all down. I get that. I understand it. Life's beating me down right now. But you know what? It's okay. I'm still going to show up for my family. I'm still going to show up for my coworkers. I'm still going to show up for the people who are counting on me because I made a commitment to them and I made a promise and I intend to keep that promise. I intend to fulfill that commitment. Not because it's going to get me recognition, but it's because it's what's right. It's the right thing to do. And you're going to automatically separate yourself from your peers if you choose to live that way. Because it's not the popular thing to do. But ultimately, it will get you the recognition that you're looking for. It will bring you to the place that you're longing to be at. You will see the fruits of your labor after a period of time. And then you can stand back and you can say, man, I'm glad I did all that. I'm glad I paid the price when other people weren't willing to. I'm glad I stayed committed to my dream. I'm glad that I showed up for myself and for everybody that was counting on me. And you can look at the receipts and you can say, yeah, I am who I say I am. Don't give up. Don't quit. Press on through the difficult times and live your life with integrity. Ask yourselves these questions because the answer to these questions I've asked in this episode will really determine a lot for you. They will determine what your life looks like and what kind of example you are for the people around you. And then when I ask the people around you, they'll say, yeah, he is who he says he is, or she is who she says she is. She's reliable, she's consistent, she has integrity, and I can trust them to be there when I need them, no matter what. Always remember, guys, the easy road, it's not the one that ultimately pays off. But when we stay committed, when we stay consistent, when we just keep walking and we keep our eyes focused on the goal, there is a reward at the end. That's all I got for you today. So think about these things. Audit your life. Ask yourself, are you living this way? Maybe you need to make some adjustments. I know I do. So let's make those adjustments. Let's stay consistent. Let's remember who needs us, who we're showing up for. And remember that there will be a reward at the end, and it's worth showing up for. So as always, take up the mantle, carry the flag, live in the aftermath. See you guys next. Hey guys, thanks for checking out that episode. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and continue to share these episodes with your friends. Check us out on YouTube and on Spotify, and if you ever want to send us a message, please go ahead and do so. I'm going to try and respond to your comments as much as possible, and I will read those messages and I'll get back to you. Any questions that you guys have, feel free to send them over. We're going to try and answer those questions as quickly as possible. Again, thank you for checking out this content. God bless. See you next time.